What's up, everybody? It's your boy J Rod, and welcome to the channel. So today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about my struggle to become a flight attendant, or just my journey of becoming a flight attendant. This is going to be a part one video of a series. This is going to be a very long video, just a little heads up. So I am going to be talking a lot. So just make sure that you get your snacks, get comfortable, because we're going to be here for a minute, okay? Because I got a lot to talk about. Now I feel like this is actually a good time to make this video. So I really want this video just to serve as inspiration for somebody who is, whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be a flight attendant job, but just anything that you want to do in life. If it's something that you really are passionate about doing, do not give up on your dreams, because it is possible. And as cliche as that sounds, it is the truth. I really do want this video to serve as inspiration for somebody who really is trying to achieve something. So with that all being said and done, we're gonna get straight into this video. And yes, this is gonna be a very long video. All right, so I wanna start this video off with a quote, and it states that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And truthfully, that is like kind of the baseline of this entire video, or I would just say the whole trajectory of my life, because if it really was not through Christ, I would not have been able to overcome the things that I've gone through. So, but yes, that quote right there is very relevant in terms of the story of me getting rejected 6 times with my journey of becoming a flight attendant over the course of 2 years. So I just wanted to start the video off with that quote. All right, so why did I want to become a flight attendant? We're going to take this all the way back. Before I even had this YouTube channel, before y'all even knew me as J Rod the Traveler, okay, we're going to take this all the way back to high school. So yes, I actually wanted to be a flight attendant since high school. There was this YouTuber that I watched. Her name is Amber Gonzalez. I actually done a video with her on my channel before. I got to meet her in person, but she literally is my role model and who I look up to as a traveler, as a linguist. Okay, she's the reason why I speak Spanish. She's the reason why I lived out the country and started traveling. Like, she literally is the blueprint from our channel. So, but basically, at the time, she was a flight attendant, and I thought that that was the coolest job. She speaks like 5 different languages, you know, self-taught. And she would just be traveling to all these different countries. She'd be in Korea, then China, then Paris, then back to Korea and China. I'm like, this girl just be everywhere. I basically told myself, if I'm ever given the opportunity to be a flight attendant and the timing is right, then I'm going to go for it. So fast forward through high school, fast forward through college. We're now in the year of 2021. Mind you, I graduated college in 2020, so it was like right when the pandemic started popping off, like literally in my last semester of college when COVID started taking off. But at that time, I had actually gotten laid off from my job. So this was like in 2020 due to COVID, and I had to file for unemployment. And so that was the time where everybody was getting those unemployment checks, and that was nice. Like, that was the time to be alive. But pretty much that only lasted for so long, and then I actually had to go find a job. And so at the time, there was a bilingual job. They needed Spanish speakers badly. They were desperate need of Spanish speakers, so I applied for it. And this is the job, as y'all know, as the hospital job. That's what I'm just going to call it. I'm not going to say the actual name of the place of where I work for obvious reasons. But yes, we're going to call it the hospital job. So I was working that job, and I was helping out with COVID-19 patients during the pandemic. And truth be told, I really did feel like a superhero, because, like, you know, I was helping people with their results, especially like the Latin community, because a lot of them weren't really knowledgeable with like what was going on with COVID. So it was really fun with like educating the community and helping out, you know, different patients with their test results. Or I think one time they put me like in pediatrics because I spoke Spanish, that's amazing. Like, if you speak Spanish, you're gonna get used in so many different departments. And so like I helped like the Latino patients. Then eventually I was answering phones, and, you know, like they just had me doing a whole bunch of stuff. So it was like a really good job at the time, and especially for utilizing my Spanish. All right, so it's the year 2021, and my mom, she just randomly sends me a message and is like, yo, Delta Airlines, they're hiring for flight attendants. And she was like, I remember you said you wanted to be a flight attendant. Like, this is your chance, because back in 2020, a lot of flight attendants got laid off because of the pandemic, and some of them actually had to get early retirement packages. And so I guess 2021, things were opening back up again. And Delta, they were doing like this big hiring spree of just like hiring tons and tons of flight attendants. And so I was like, all right, bet. So I got the link, and it was just kind of like on a whim. I wasn't really, I guess, as serious about it, but, you know, I just was like, if I get it, I don't. Like, I'm not going to really trip about it. So I put in the application, and I didn't hear nothing back. Okay, I didn't get a call, didn't get a text, not an email, not even an assessment, nada. Okay, and they didn't pick me for whatever reason. It could have been because there's too many applicants at the time. Maybe they didn't like my resume. I don't really know, and it's not really relevant. But for whatever reason, they did not pick me the first time, and I was okay with it. So I just continued on with my life, and I remember that year, like I was on a roll. I was just traveling, going to all these different countries, young, carefree, just traveling, seeing the world. While everybody was in quarantine, like I was really just living my best life to the fullest. And so I do this for like a whole year, and now it's the year 2022. So a whole year goes by, and it's the same scenario. I had a homeboy, he worked for Delta Airlines, he worked in baggage claim, and he says, yo, J-Rod, Delta Airlines, they're hiring for flight attendants, like, I think you'd be a good pick, you know? So I was like, I bet. So I'm like, spring 2022, it's my chance to become a flight attendant. So I put in the application, and this time they did get in contact with me. They actually did reach out to me, and they sent me a link to an assessment. And the assessment was long as hell. It was probably like 100-something questions. And I just remember it took me about like an hour and a half to finish all of it, but it was just like a bunch of questions about my personality and like what would you do in this situation, or blah, 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 blah. So fill out this long questionnaire, and I submitted, and then a couple of weeks later, they hit me back up to do a video interview. So at that point, I got really excited because everything up until that point was just like assessments and electronic, just filling out forms and stuff. But actually getting to a video interview, I finally got to actually speak to somebody person to person. So I was really excited. However, I had nothing for the interview. So all I had in my closet was hospital scrubs, gym clothes, and streetwear. That's it. Like I didn't have no like actual business clothes. And so I had ran to Goodwill. Yes, I went to Goodwill very last minute. And then I just found something that was, it wasn't even a full suit. It was literally just from like the waist up because it was a video interview. I was like, I'm not about to spend like $1 million on an outfit if I don't even know if I'm going to make it to the next round. So I just put together my best flight attendant outfit, get to the video interview. I thought I killed it. Okay, like I answered all the questions with no hesitation. You know, I spoke clearly, I enunciated perfectly, like I didn't feel like I had any problems. However, long story short, I ended up getting my first rejection letter, which is a TBNT, thank you but no thank you. And for those who are like applying for jobs in the aviation world, or people who are trying to become flight attendants, y'all know what a thanks but no thanks email is. Basically saying thank you for applying, but no thank you at this time. And yeah, that was like my first official rejection letter. And I was a little bit surprised because I thought the interview went well, but then once I started doing research on how competitive the airline industry was and how hard it is to become a flight attendant, it's pretty much like a 1% chance or acceptance rate for people getting these jobs. It's actually statistically harder to become a flight attendant with this company than it is to get into Harvard. So I didn't know that at the time, and I just started doing a whole bunch of research, and it's like over 150,000 applicants, you know, that they have to weed out and go through. So I started looking up how to answer the questions, and it's a specific format that each airline is looking for. And although my interview was strong, it just was not a flight attendant interview. So that resulted in me not getting picked. And yeah, I was pretty bummed out about it. I was sad. So not only was I sad that I didn't get it, but I was also at that time going through really bad heartbreak. And I'm not trying to rehash old things, so let me just preface this real quick. Not trying to be messy or, you know, bring up the past, but just for the sake of the story, okay, like this is what was going on at my life in this moment. So I've completely healed from that situation, and it's behind me now. But to stay relevant for what we're talking about, I have to bring this up. So pretty much I was going through really bad heartbreak. I actually fell in love with somebody, or at least I thought I fell in love with somebody. And I mean, you know how that goes. Like you fall for somebody, and then you feel like you're going to be with that person. And like we talked about marriage and spending our lives together. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. It didn't work out. And it was really devastating because like we ended on bad terms. And I didn't think I was ever going to talk to this person again or see them again. And so I don't know. It's like when you are that close to somebody and it just doesn't work out, it's like you feel like you lose a part of yourself. Like I felt like I lost a friend. And so, yeah, like it was really depressing. Funny thing is, we actually did recently just get back cool. So I'm going to save that surprise to the very end of the story because it's all going to make sense in the end of how it just ties together beautifully. But so yeah, I'm going to save that surprise to the end. But and I know they're going to watch this video, so it's just like, it's kind of awkward talking about this. But yes, it's behind me. It's behind me, I promise. Basically, yeah, so I was going through heartbreak. And then along with that, that same week, my dog died while I was in Colombia. So I wasn't even in the States when my dog died. So I come back home, my dog dies. That same week, my classmate got murdered from gun violence. So literally all in the same week, going through heartbreak, my dog dies while I'm on vacation, my classmate gets murdered, and then I just received my rejection letter from the airline. And I remember asking God, I was like, you know, not to be like the victim, like, why me? But I literally was asking, like, why am I going through all of this? Like, I don't understand why, like, everything is just, like, being so dysfunctional right now in my life. Like, I was just very confused. And I was kind of frustrated, you know, and once again, it was very depressing, like, just having all these things back-to-back happen. But on a bright note, I did actually get promoted to supervisor at my job. However, I couldn't really celebrate being a supervisor because, hell, I wanted to be a flight attendant, and I was still going through heartbreak. And so it was just kind of like, it really didn't mean anything to me of becoming a supervisor. I really didn't care. So, yeah, that whole summer was just pretty depressing. I stayed in the bed the whole time. And, I mean, I tried to post here and there on YouTube, but I don't really open up or get too deep about some of the things that be happening in my personal life. But that summer was probably like a really, really sad summer for me. Pretty much during that time, I just was continuing to train for the military. So yes, at the same time of me trying to become a flight attendant, I was also training to become a military officer. I know some people kind of guessed it because if you saw my stories, like I was working out a lot, constantly like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and running. I was just doing so many miles every single day. That was probably like the best shape of my adult life. Like, you know, I was running like sub 7-minute miles, like, you know, I was just killing it every single day. But yes, I was actually planning on joining the military. And that's actually something that I haven't completely given up on. It was just more so a matter of who was going to give me the opportunity first. So the thing about the military is the job that I wanted was not offered at the time. And so everybody was just telling me, like, you know, wait till you see the job that you want. You know, the thing that recruiters will do is like, they'll like try to get you to sign up for jobs and they'll offer you that sign-on bonus or whatever. But if it's not the job that you really want, then you're kind of just going to be stuck with it. So yeah, pretty much that's what happened. I was going to just go in as an officer since I already completed college, so I didn't have to enlist. And everybody kept saying, go in as an officer. Like, literally every single person kept telling me that, go in as an officer, don't enlist. So that was the plan, but it was just a waiting game to see who was going to give me the opportunity first, flight attendant or the military. So yeah, pretty much that whole summer, I was just out there just killing it, running my pain away. And then finally, I just got up one day and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to Egypt. It was just a random day. I remember it was like yesterday. It was a Saturday. And I just was like, you know, I'm tired of feeling sad and miserable. Like, I just want to get back into, you know, who I am as J-Rod. Like, I'm a traveler. Like, this is what I do. And so, yeah, I just randomly booked the trip to Egypt. I just saw the first flight and I said, I'm out. And I remember I booked it on a Saturday and then I flew out the next Saturday. I didn't even tell my job that I was leaving yet. Like, that's how quick it was. And I came to work Monday. I was like, you know, Saturday I'm going to Egypt. And I was like, all right, like, peace out. Have fun. So that was kind of one of the benefits of being a supervisor is like I had a lot of control of my schedule. So anyways, I go out to Egypt, had the time of my life, okay? That country was just filled with so much like culture and history. And it was just like, it was a really, really fun experience. Like I was really living it up. I'm like, this is what I'm born to do. Like, I'm born to see the world. I'm born to travel. You know, like, this is meant for me. Like, I don't know how, but it's meant for me. So, you know, out in Egypt, just living my best life, you know, seeing the world. All that fun lasted all of 2 seconds, okay? Because I went right back to hell, my job. So at that time, I hated my job. When I say absolutely hated coming to work, that was like the most miserable I've ever felt in my entire life. Because at that point, I was over being a manager. I was tired of being a supervisor. My employees at the time were extremely toxic people. And it's sad because I had like 3 different groups. So the first group of people that I started with, they actually saw me go from a regular employee and then work my way up the ranks to become a supervisor. So they saw me, like, they saw the progression, right? They were like family to me. But they all ended up getting switched to different departments or getting different jobs. So I had this new team of people come in under me, and they were coming in through the temp agency. And these people were the worst people I have ever worked with in my entire life. In my entire life, I've never worked with such a toxic group of negative individuals. Like, I literally hated coming to my job. And I remember I used to sit in the car, like, I used to want to cry before walking into work. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, I used to be like, God, please, like, help me get through this day. Because, like, I just really hated it. I had this one employee, like, she got fired for sexual harassment. And then she continued to harass me after she got fired. She still continued to harass me to this day. Like, she just recently, like, left a comment on one of my YouTube videos under a fake page. Because this is the thing about her, like, she thinks I'm stupid. So she's been like contacting me on fake pages, and like on my birthday just a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, she had just wrote me on my birthday saying like happy birthday loser or whatever, like just being still very childish. And it's like, bro, like I do not talk to you. I have no association with you. Why are you still reaching out to me? It got so bad to the point where law enforcement had to get involved, and I requested a restraining order. So then I had to like take off work, and then they were telling me like, oh, you need to go file a temporary order of protection. So then I had to like go to the police station. Then I had to go to the courthouse. It was just like all this stuff. Like I'm wasting all this time, you know, leaving work and doing all this mess. And this is just a side note. I promise I'm gonna get back to the story. But then she had like sent a link to my YouTube channel to all my supervisors, which here's the catch. They already knew I was a YouTuber. They already knew I was a YouTuber. So she did all of this thinking like they didn't know. And I'm like, they already knew I was a YouTuber because I had reported her months ago that I said that this woman has been stalking me and being on my page. It was multiple employees actually like that were on my YouTube shit. This woman, she has no boundaries. I tried to expose my YouTube channel to people who already knew I was a YouTuber. Like she don't think that managers don't talk. But yeah, so she was just dealing with her mess, and the police, they are still on this situation. So every time she reaches out to me, like literally the police is documenting everything she does. All right, but back to the story. But yeah, at that point, I just hated coming to work. It was just getting very difficult. It was other drama too that was going on. But then too, I just also was getting homesick because prior to the pandemic, I also had an apartment in Dominican Republic. So I started missing my friends out in the DR. And I just started missing, you know, what life was before the pandemic. Like I actually wanted to go back to living on the island. So I just started looking up a whole bunch of remote jobs, and that was the plan. Like I was just about to like pack up all my stuff and go back to the DR. And then I came across Delta Airlines again. So this is the fall of 2022. And I saw a flight attendant, and I was like, this ain't a remote job, but I said, you know what, like I can give this flight attendant thing a try again, because the beauty of being a flight attendant is you can live anywhere in the world. Technically, you don't have to live at your base. So I said, you know what, like, you know, I could try this out again. I could commute from work, do all this. So I said, why not? So I put in the application fall 2022 because 6 months have passed by. And what people have to understand is every time you apply, you have to wait 6 months. And then on top of that, you have to go through the whole thing again. So all those assessment questions and those initial application questions, like if you don't pass those assessments, you literally will have to wait 6 months. So it's like to keep going through this over and over again, like I want y'all to understand like how dragged out this process is. It's a very, very, very long process. So I go through the application, pass the assessments. They had like virtual job tryouts. It was like other assessments and stuff. Went through all that. Finally, I get to the video interview. And at this point, I kind of hold my breath again because this is the part where I didn't make it. I got knocked out that last round. So I studied my ass off, okay? Practice. I had note cards, flashcards. I was writing out everything I needed to do. I was doing tons of research. And long story short, your boy, he passed. Okay, so I ended up getting an email and they invited me to the face-to-face. So what a face-to-face is pretty much where they fly out all the candidates. They fly out about 50 of us. and to headquarters, and then you do this one big final interview. And this is literally the last step before getting into flight attendant training. So I was super happy, bro. Like, if y'all would have saw my reaction, you would have thought I had the job. And I was so freaking happy, bro. And I remember I had went all the way out. So I went and got me a custom fitted Calvin Klein suit. Okay, so like I wanted to go, it was like go big or go home, because I knew I was gonna have to bring it with all these people coming out there because it's extremely competitive. So got me a custom fitted Calvin Klein suit, spent money, got a haircut, booked the hotel. So like I'm just getting all prepared or whatever. And it's funny thing, the day before the actual interview, I get the suit and the suit doesn't actually fit. The pants was high waters. So that was a whole big thing. They gave me the wrong size pants. So then I had to go run through town, go find another suit store. And then I got me another Calvin Klein suit. So I spent like a lot of money, and I got it tailored the same day. But so I was spending, at that point, I was in the thousands when it came down to outfits, shoes, haircuts, transportation, food, and then also hotel expenses. I was definitely like in the thousands with this whole thing. But the way I look at it is I wasn't attached to the money. I was like, I'm going to get a return on my investment. So, you know, it was a pretty penny that I was spending. But, you know, at that time, I was so serious about getting this job, I just didn't care. So anyways, we get to the face-to-face, the final interview. And I remember like that night, the night before in the hotel, I just had been practicing and practicing and practicing, just been like, you know, rehearsing it as the best as I could ever get, okay? So I was just like really, really putting all my effort and energy into this. And the day of the actual interview, I was terrified. Like, I just remember thinking like, dang, like, this is real. Like, I'm really in headquarters about to go in to get this job. And like I told you, they fly out about 50 candidates from around the world. It was people from like Nairobi and Kenya. Like, it was people from everywhere, all over the United States. And these were like the top 50. So I ended up going to the face-to-face. And pretty much what happens at face-to-face, I can't really go into too much detail because I've already been sworn to secrecy by this airline not to discuss what actually happens in the face-to-face. But what I can tell you is that it's a very long process, and it consists of like different activities. So they'll like break you up into groups, and then there'll be like some Q&A sessions. You'll do one-on-one interviews. You'll do group activities. You'll do group introductions, and then you'll do a lot of mixing and mingling. But this whole time you're being evaluated from like people from the talent acquisition team, other flight attendants, HR. Like, it's so many people in this room, and they just got clipboards and they're watching you. And you're like, you're being assessed. It's like kind of like this huge social experiment. Like, I've never been through an interview like this. And it lasted about 4 hours. And at the end of it, that's when they finally did the cuts. If they called your name, that means that you didn't make it. Okay. And sometimes they will reach out to you through email, but most of the time, if they call your name, you just didn't get it. And so we started getting through the cuts, and then we finally got into like the last round of cuts. And I just remember I was like super, super happy and excited. I was like, yes, I got this job. Like, I worked so hard for this. And I was just on the edge of my seat. Like, I just knew I had the job. Like, with all the things I was going through with my job and then relationships, it was just like, bro, like, this is just meant to happen for me. And they called my name. And immediately in that moment, my heart, it just sank to my stomach. And I just remember thinking like, what? And the girl next to me, she just looked at me. She's like, bro, but he was so good. And it was like the last cut right before they selected the final individuals that day. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, I was kind of paralyzed. And it was kind of embarrassing of how it happened because you're like in a room with like 100-something people, and you had to like walk to the front and go grab your stuff and walk out. And I remember like I tried to hold my head up high and, walk like I had some type of class and pride about myself. But on the inside, I just felt broken. Like, I was just about to like fall apart. I had spent all this money on outfits, spent all the money on the hotel, transportation, all this preparation. And I even canceled my trip to Cuba because I was actually supposed to go to Cuba right before this interview. So I canceled my trip to Cuba. Like, I had really just wanted this badly. and I had put in so much effort, like 110%, and I came up short. And I was just like, how do you mess this up? And you're literally in headquarters, like you're in the door, and like you don't get it. So I was pretty sad about it. And then I was walking back to the shuttle, and a flight attendant, he came up to me. He was walking back to the shuttle, and he actually started talking to me about some pizza restaurant. He asked where I was from, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like they have a really good pizza restaurant in your city." And in my mind, I was like, "Dude, like I'm not trying to talk about pizza right now. I'm trying not to fall into a million pieces because I just got cut right before they picked the final people. And as I was walking out, I heard a loud cheer, and those were the people that got selected. And I mean, everybody who got the job that day deserved it. So I'm not going to, act salty or bitter, but it definitely was hard when you come that close to something and then you don't get it. And so I remember getting in the shuttle. Now, this was kind of comical, but I got in the shuttle with all the rejects of the people who didn't make it. And everybody was just mad, huffing, fussing, and cussing. And they was talking about, man, I spent all this money and, I did this and I took off of work for this. And this whole day, everybody's just been having these smiles, these big, bright Kool-Aid smiles on their faces. And it's just like, now you really get to see everybody's true colors. I'm like, that's how you really act. So it was pretty funny. Like, I remember by the time I left, my cheeks were hurting so bad from smiling. But just to see everybody just like angry and kind of just upset, it was like, well, it kind of made me feel better. Like I wasn't the only one going through the same thing. But I remember it was this one guy in the shuttle, and he was from Miami. I'll never forget this. He was trying to be like very positive and optimistic about it. He was like, you know what, we all did good, guys. Like there's still hope. And bro, ain't nobody, when I tell you nobody was trying to hear that, we was like, boy, like, if you don't shut up, like, I mean, I get it, but at that time, like, everybody was so angry. And, I mean, that is a good attitude to have. It really is, being optimistic. But in that moment, it just was not the time. Like, everybody, when I say everybody was upset, everybody was angry. And he actually was at the same hotel as me because as I was checking out the hotel, he was in the lobby. He was like, "Oh, you going to the Delta interview?" And I was like, "Yeah," because he noticed I had the suit and tie on. So we both actually ended up leaving the hotel at the same time, but we ended up not getting the job. So yeah, I remember when I finally got to myself and I sat in silence for about 40 minutes. I just took a huge deep breath, and I was just like, I said, "We gotta do it again." I said, "Get your ass up. We're going to do it again." So literally the next day, I go right back to the same job that I hated. And that's when the depression really started to kick in. And at this point, things had gotten really bad at my job. So like I told you, it was drama and stuff going on. Like I had this other employee of mine who liked me. She had a crush on me. And so she was like kind of instigating stuff. And she would tell me all the stuff that one girl who was harassing me, she would tell me all the stuff that she would say about me. So she was low-key instigating stuff between us. And I guess she was doing that. She would tell me all the stuff that she was saying. So I guess she could try to get with me. But like I wanted nothing to do with none of them. Like I told you, I did not like none of the people that I worked with at that time. And it was just getting really bad. Like I can hear conversations being said about me because they spoke really loudly. Or other employees would come up to me and tell me what was being said behind my back. And then people wonder why I don't feel like happy being there. Or people start lying on me. And when I tell y'all, like, I hated being at that job. Hated being at that job. My anxiety got so bad working at that job because I'm still trying to be professional and conduct myself as a professional, but I was dealing with all this like mess that was going on, and then people like lying on me and saying that I did something that I didn't do or whatever. And so it just became very stressful. Then it got to the point where like I started having nightmares of me dying at my job, and I felt like that was a sign to tell me like you need to leave. Like I literally remember where I had dreams of me actually dying there, like pretty much saying like if you don't leave this job, something really bad is going to happen to you. And so, yeah, I just feel like those are all signs being like implemented into my subconscious to like basically make the next move. And so I just became extremely desperate to leave. So that's when I was like, you know what? I'm about to apply for every airline. So I just started applying for every airline that was a main line. I couldn't do regional. I didn't want to be a regional flight attendant anyways because they don't really fly anywhere. They just stay within a particular region. But I'm actually too tall to be a regional flight attendant. I think the cutoff is like 6'1" or 6 feet. I'm a tall dude. I'm 6'4", so. But I definitely always only wanted to be a mainline flight attendant. So I just started applying to any mainline that was hiring at the time. So the first one I applied for was Frontier. So I put in an application for Frontier Airlines, did an interview. Thank you, but no thank you. So then I see that JetBlue is hiring. So I put in an application for JetBlue. Thank you, but no thank you. And I actually got kicked out of the first round on that one. I don't think it was fair, but it is what it is. So I didn't get on with JetBlue. Then I put in the application for Spirit Airlines. Yes, that's how desperate I was. I was like, you know what? I'll apply for any airline. Like, I just want to leave this job. So I ended up applying for Spirit Airlines. And what actually happened is something happened with the application link, so it didn't actually process. So yeah, I actually don't even count Spirit Airlines because my application didn't go through. Something was wrong with the link. So that one doesn't count. But then I applied for American. I saw that they had an opening. And so I did interview with them. They had like a group interview and it was like 20 of us. I just do not like group interviews. I don't really think you get to know a person if it's 20 people in the room, and you only asking one question. So I ended up getting a thank you, but no thank you. So I'm like, all right. So then finally I see this other airline that had an opening, and this was actually my second pick. So I was like, if I don't get on with Delta, then I'm going to try out for this airline. And this was one of the big three. So I was like, yes, like they finally got an opening because I've been like refreshing, trying to see when they're going to have an opening. And that's the thing for these airline applications. Like they only be up for a certain amount of time. So it's like, if you don't hop on there immediately, then you might blow your chance of getting it. Like, I've even seen it where they'll only keep it posted for like a couple of hours and it's like, boom. So as soon as I saw that this one had an opening, I immediately just submitted my resume. I already had it saved to the desktop. Like, I was like, boom, like immediately, because before they shut it. And so I put in the application. And so this was December of 2022. And then shortly after that, they emailed me a link to do like the assessment. And so I did like the assessments and all that. Okay. And then after that, a couple of weeks later, they ended up sending me an email to do a pre-video interview. And I remember I kind of started freaking out about this one because these are like the pre-recorded video interviews where basically it's like a question and then you just respond to the question, but you're not actually talking to somebody. You're just recording yourself on the screen pretty much. You're recording your responses. And they only asked like 3 questions. I'm like, that's not enough to really get to know somebody. So I was kind of worried about that because like I told you, it's like 100-something thousand people applying for these jobs. I'm not even joking. It literally be thousands upon thousands and thousands of people applying for these jobs. So I was just like, I hope my personality stands out enough to be selected. And so I put in the pre-video interview and didn't really know how I did. I just tried my best. And a month goes by, I hear nothing. Another month goes by, I don't hear anything. So a whole 2 months go by. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's just not meant for me to be a flight attendant. Like, maybe this whole flight attendant thing is just it's not going to work out. And then out of nowhere, one day I was at the movies with my friends and I just checked my email and it was like, hang on tight. Okay, congratulations. Like, you made it through the next round. We have your application and we want to continue the interviewing process with you. There was like, we put a temporary pause on all the applications because apparently they were getting so many, so they had to like pause them. And they said, we just been doing a bunch of catching up, so we're just going to go ahead and finish up the interviews with the people who they have right there queued up. So they said they'll get with me in a couple of weeks to do my interview. But they said, hang on tight, like you did make it through the next round. So I'm like, yes, like I'm back in the game, get back in my zone. Like, I'm like, all right, like we back in it. So I finally end up doing my video interview. And at that point, I had been doing so many flight attendant interviews that like I was a beast at them at that point. So I did really good on my video interview. Could not have gone any more perfect. Okay, like I really just like blew it out of the water. And even the recruiter, she thought I did an excellent job. So that was pretty nice. And so she said at the end of it, She said, they'll get back with you in a couple of days and they'll let you know, like, if you made it through to the next round. Y'all, literally the next day I get an email and it says, congratulations, you've been selected for the finals. And I was super happy. I was like, yes, like I made it to the end. I've been waiting for months and months and months because now it's like March. I'm just super excited. I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we need you in Houston, Texas next week. And I'm just like, huh? I'm like, next week? And because when I went to pull up the appointment times, the only times available were for next week. So, and this was pretty bad because literally the week before that, I had COVID. And then the week before that, I was in Morocco. So I had been out of work for like 2 weeks. And then it's like, now you got to take off again. And at that point, I was working 2 jobs. So not only was I working, the hospital job, but then I also had another job and I was a supervisor at both of these jobs. So having to take off work again and, you just been gone for like 2 weeks and then you're trying to take off to do this interview, it was really stressful. And then I'm the supervisor at both of these jobs. One of the jobs, I just became the supervisor, so I was still learning the ropes. And then the other one, I had a new team of people that they weren't really trained that well. So like I felt bad about leaving them. But they did excellent. And yes, the new group of people that came in after the crazies, they were actually normal people. So yeah, I was able to manage to get off of work. And then I went to the dry cleaners. I had to go get a haircut. I had to go get all this stuff, go book a hotel. So it's like I'm spending all this money again on another not guaranteed opportunity. But that's how bad I wanted this. So I ended up flying out to Houston. And pretty much I stayed in the hotel the entire time and I was just practicing and practicing and practicing. And then it got to like around 10 o'clock and I was like, you know what, Gerard? I'm like, you have literally practiced to the point where like you can't make it any better. I was like, if it's meant for you, it's meant for you. Like, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go to sleep. So I finally just called it a night and I said, you know what? Like, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, there's nothing more I can do that's going to make my performance any better when I go into this interview. And so the following morning, I wake up and it's the day of the face-to-face. And I remember that day, like the energy, it just felt super good that day. And compared to the previous face-to-faces I've had, like this one, when I woke up, I just felt like I was ready. Like I felt like, like I'm ready to attack this head on. It wasn't like that feeling of fear, of anxiousness or worry or doubt. Like I actually really did feel like, all right, like I'm about to walk in here and get this job. And even my homie from DR, my best friend, he was like, boy, like you just down there, just walk in, you're going to fill out your paperwork. Like the job is yours. Like that's pretty much what he told me to do. He said, just pretend like you already got the job. And so I remember I woke up, I had listened to some meditation that morning. It was like a 10-minute video about manifesting your dream job. And I'll actually leave a link to that video down below, the exact video I listened to when I woke up that morning. But I was listening to my meditation videos and then I started like talking to myself in the mirror. I was like, you're the son of blah, 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 blah. I was saying my parents' names. I said like, you're going to go in there, you're going to get this job. Like, don't let nobody like see you sweat. Like, you got it. And then I started listening to Future. Future's my favorite rapper, so I started playing him in the background. So I was just like getting pumped, getting ready. And then finally, right before it was time for me to leave the hotel, I sat on the edge of my bed and I just started praying to God. I was like, Lord, like I worked super hard for this. You know how much I worked for this. All the rejections and, you brought me again to another face-to-face. I said, if it's for me, it's for me and your will. I was like, Lord, please just help me get this job. And while I was in the middle of praying, my phone goes off and you will never believe who messages me. So remember how I told you early in the story, I was going through heartbreak and it just didn't work out between me and this person. So I looked down at my phone and I see a message from them and I just kind of froze. I was like, oh my God. I was like, wow. Like I have not spoken to this person in like 7 months. It had been at least 7 months since we last spoken to each other. So when I saw their name pop up on my screen, like my heart kind of dropped a little bit. And then I was like, do I respond? Like, what do I say? And then I was like, if I do respond, are we going to get in an argument? And I was like, this is like the worst timing. This is the worst timing, like right before I'm about to go into this interview. Because I'm like, if I say something, then we end up getting in an argument, that's going to throw off my whole day. So I was like, you know what? Like, put the phone away, put the phone away. So I was like, I'll end up replying back, after the interview. So that like was in the back of my mind. And so I'm just like freaking out right now. And so then I end up going to the lobby of the hotel. Everybody was complimenting me. Every single person in the lobby was saying like, oh, you look so nice. For some reason, a lot of people kept saying they thought I was a pilot. And I was like, no, I'm actually applying to be a flight attendant. But a lot of people thought I was a pilot for some reason. And so I end up leaving the hotel and I get in the Uber. On my way to the interview, it was this elderly black lady. I'll never forget this. But she asked me, she said, where are you going? You're dressed so nice. And I told her I'm actually going to a flight attendant interview. And she said, baby, let's pray. She said, I'm going to pray for you. And I did not ask her to do this at all. Like, she literally just started praying for me. And I don't know, I thought that was like the sweetest thing. However, out of nowhere, after she started praying, somebody had cut her off. And she was like, bitch, get out my lane. And I was just like, how you go from praying to like having road rage? But I was like, you know what? Like, it was a good laugh. Like, it kind of like calmed me down a little bit. But I'm like, bro, how you go from praying to like cussing people out? But I'm like, you know what? Like, thank you, because I needed it. Like, that was so funny. So I'm over here cracking up laughing, and then I finally get out of the car, and I'm downtown Houston. It's like this huge skyscraper building. Okay, it was like a really, really, really big building. And I actually got there 20 minutes early, and so I was waiting outside with my luggage, and I see this other girl, she approached me, and we just started talking. She was like, oh, you here for the flight attendant interview? I was like, yeah, I am. So we just started talking a little bit, and she was saying how she was nervous. And that whole day, my whole mission was like, just make people feel comfortable. I was like, I'm going to encourage people, make them feel good about the interview. Like, I want them to feel positive walking in there. I was like, no, you got this. Like, don't worry about it. And she actually was a flight attendant for a different airline. So I'm like, so you've been through this before. Like, you got this. And so we ended up checking in, and then it was kind of like this whole PTSD thing all over again with the whole Delta interview. See everybody in the suits and everybody dressed up nice, and we're in the lobby of this huge, huge building in downtown Houston. It's like the skyscraper. And the lobby is just like gorgeous, like marble floors. Like, it looked very immaculate, okay? So we get all checked in, and we just kind of chit-chatting at the tables. And then that's when they like call us up in groups. So they take us up in the elevator, and then that's when the games begin. So they take us up very high up, and we get to like the main floor. And like I said, very, very beautiful building. They gave us a place to put our luggage, and then we finally like got in a single file line. They told us what tables we need to sit at, and so they had like tables divided by different cities. So my table was Newark at the time, and so I went and sat at the table. And then once again, I can't really tell you what happens at the face-to-face, but pretty much it's the same thing. They fly out about like, I don't know, like 50 people. And then you're there all day, and it's pretty much an all-day interview. So very similar to the Delta interview. You'll do, group activities, and then Q&A sessions, and then you'll do some one-on-one sessions or whatever. But the whole thing is being assessed, like the entire day is the interview. Now, there was a part of this interview that I liked that was very unique. Like during our break time, like restroom breaks and stuff, they let us write cards to the children's hospital. And basically, these were children who had like terminal illnesses. And so like you can write them like cards, basically. And on my card, I wrote as if I was writing to the younger version of myself. And I said, like, never give up on your first try, even if it means you have to keep doing it over and over again. You will get whatever you want in life. Like, don't give up. And I wrote that on the card because I wanted a child to read that and be like, I wanted them to feel inspired, but I was really writing to my younger self, and it was symbolic to like what I was doing with being a flight attendant, because I kept getting rejected over and over again, and I was like, you know what, like, I'm not going to give up on this. And so that's what I wrote on the card. So I don't know, I thought that was pretty special. But anyways, we're getting through the day. All right, very, very long day. And so the day is proceeding on. We're getting closer and closer. We're going through the rounds. And I'm like, all right, like, still here. We got this. And they pulled me in to go do a one-on-one session. They called my name. I was like one of the first people to get called. And I was like, oh, snap. Like, is this bad? And so they pulled me in to go do my one-on-one session. And once again, this airline, they threw me in for a twist. Was not expecting this. This was something I did not practice for or could really prepare for, but Once again, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is. Pretty much they're going to have you react to things, and you have to be quick on your feet. And they're kind of like in these simulated scenarios. And once again, it was a very nice twist to the interview. Did not really expect that, but my heart was pounding out my chest because I was like, oh no, I did not practice for this. However, I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did perfect. Okay, so the recruiter, she was obviously impressed by it. She was just like, very good. She was like, were you previously a flight attendant before? And I was like, no, like this is my first time. And so she was pretty impressed with my performance. And so she did ask me to do a reach test in there. And she was like, obviously you're tall enough. I can just look at you. Because I am 6'4", so like she was like, I know you're gonna be tall enough. But yeah, so she takes me out the room and then she walks me to the elevator. And I had noticed like the people who were getting sent downstairs, I guess it was over, like they were getting sent home, or they were gonna be contacted via email. And so that's the thing, like just because you get sent home does not mean that the airline can't contact you. So people who are going through this, don't get discouraged if you get sent home from the interview. They can still reach out to you via email, because there are people that I knew who were receiving their job offers through the email, but then they were giving some people the job on the spot. And so she had walked me to the elevator, and we had went upstairs to like the very, very top floor. And so when I got off the elevator, she was like, you're going to be a great flight attendant. And at the time, I didn't know what she was saying. You know, like I didn't really think nothing of it, but I just remember seeing the view, and it was like this beautiful, like panoramic scene of Houston, Texas. And I don't know, I just felt like I was on top of the world. And then it was like me up there with like a couple of other people. I think it was about like 5 or 6 of us, and we were just all trying to figure out like what was going on. It was like, we don't see anybody, and it was like, did we get picked? And one girl was like, no, I think we did get selected. And then she was like, because I don't see anybody else. And so we were just all trying to figure this out. And then I was like, nah, like I think it's more to the interview, because the lady told me, she was like, we're going to continue on with the interviewing process. So anyways, they just started taking pictures, and they were dancing, and they were like, yay, we got the job. And I was kind of like, I don't know. And then out of nowhere, a flight attendant, she comes around the corner, and then we all sit down real fast. And you know, it's like back when in school, when the teacher leave the classroom, and then everybody's like up and like dancing and doing stuff. And so when she came back, we sat down so quickly, because it was like, oh snap, like it's not over. So she calls us in one by one. And so she takes me into this room, and it's like this long table, like this long wooden table, and there's 2 flight attendants in there. I'm like, bro, like how long is this interview, bro? Like it's just like, it just seemed like it just kept going and going and going. And I saw like a jump seat in there, so I had to do the jump seat test. And then after I did the jump seat test, she sat me at the end of the table with the 2 flight attendants. She was like, so after careful consideration, we would like to offer you a position. And I remember I just like dropped my head. I was like, what? Like me? Like I got a job as a flight attendant? Like, you know, and I had been trying for so long, and I was like, bro, like this ain't real right now. And I just remember I was like, I kind of froze up a little bit, and the girl was like, get up. She was like, be happy, like you a flight attendant. And so, man, I was so happy. Like I just felt like all that hard work, everything I did, like just paid off. And I remember I went next door to go sign the paperwork, and I was just filling out tons and tons of papers. Then I had to go do the drug test, and they also scanned my fingerprints. Guys, my palms were so sweaty that the machine could not even detect my fingers when they placed it on there. And she had to get like this little portable fan to cool my fingers off. And she was like, it's okay, baby. She was like, you got the job. Like, calm down. I'm like, y'all don't understand. Like, my mind is just in a million places right now. I'm thinking I got it, then I'm thinking I don't got it. So it's just like this whole day has just been kind of like a roller coaster. And but anyways, like it was just a really, really good feeling. Like I was like, wow, like I actually got the job. But then what ends up happening, I end up leaving. Y'all, I was there for like 5 hours. That was a long interview. Okay, so I think I ended up getting there at like 10, and I didn't end up leaving till like 3. So yes, the interview was a 5-hour process, okay? But I ended up going back to the airport, and on my flight back to Atlanta, there were actually 2 other girls that had made it. They were on the same flight as me, and one of the girls never flew before. Like, her first time on the plane was flying to the interview, and I was like, girl, you are brave. Like, I'm like, dang, like, she never flew before, and she wanted to be a flight attendant. I'm like, hey, hats off to you. But anyways, word had got on the plane to the flight attendants that we just received our CJOs, contingent job offers. And basically what that is it's a job offer, meaning that upon completion of training, you will get the job. So you got to pass training before you get the job. But anyways, the flight attendants have found out about it. And as we got off the plane, I guess they had told the pilot and then the first officer, which is the co-pilot, they told them. And then so as we was getting off the plane, walking up the jet bridge, the pilots, the flight attendants, the first officer, everybody was like clapping for us. And it was like, congratulations, you know, like they were just cheering us on. And it's like, we can't wait to fly with you soon. And I don't know, I felt like I was a superstar. I felt like I was a celebrity. You know, everybody just clapping and cheering for me as we get off the plane. Yeah, it was like a really good feeling. And so later that night, I got on the shuttle. And so you remember how I told you, like, I'll reply back to that text message I received. So finally on the shuttle, I finally did open up my phone and I replied back to the message. And long story short, we ended up making up again. We got back cool, and I had said, like, you know, sorry, I was doing a job interview the whole day. I just had got my contingent job offer with the airline, and they congratulated me or whatever. Yeah, we ended up getting back cool again, and that was like the cherry on top of a perfect day. That was probably the best day of my life. Like, everything just flowed so perfectly that day. And I would never forget this day ever. Like out of all my years of living, you know, that this is something I'm always gonna remember forever. And yeah, that was just a beautiful way to end that day. Like, you know, I got my job, we're back cool, I get to leave the job that I hated, I get to relocate now and travel the world. So all those hardships and the things that I went through, it was all worth it in the end. So yeah, from there, I got all my stuff and I relocated to Houston, Texas. And so this concludes part one. All right, part two is going to be flight attendant training, which it gets even crazier, okay? There is another part to the story, and you guys are going to be blown away with the outcome of, like, what actually goes down in flight attendant training. But yes, stay tuned for part two. Don't know when I'm going to upload it, but there is going to be a part two. So if you did enjoy part one, let me know down below what you think. But yes, there is more to the story. So that concludes part one. I hope you guys really did enjoy this video. But I really do want this video to serve as inspiration for somebody who's really trying to make it out there, or if they're like very passionate about something, not to give up. And like, it might take you a couple of tries, and people who are trying to get into the aviation industry, it might take you a couple of no's before you get that one yes. But like, if you just stay persistent and you have tenacity, that's another thing. Like, you must have tenacity. You definitely can achieve it, and I'm a prime example of somebody who did it. So don't ever give up on it if it's something that you really want to do. But y'all, I really did enjoy making this video. This is probably gonna be like one of my favorite YouTube videos that I've uploaded. But leave your comments down below. Catch you in my next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Peace.